good. I almost bought that T-shirt. I almost bought one like that.
I don't.
Where? Really? Where's that?
It's online. It's on the tester.
Oh, really? Okay. There's a surf shop in California that had that.
Oh, do they do it too?
Yeah, that's cool. Cool.
JP starts off.
Hey, Ron, roster cuts had to be made today. Some of the moves might mean you're looking at some of your younger guys. How do you feel like Antonio Gandy Golden's offseason and training camp is going so far?
It's been going well. He's doing some good things, catching people's attention. He's a big body, works well with the quarterbacks in terms of the vertical stuff. So he's done a nice job. He really has.
And then at the tight end spot, it seems like there's been kind of a lot of turnover for a smaller roster depth chart. How do you feel like maybe John and Samus are starting to put things together as they get a little more time here?
I like what they're doing. I think those kind of guys are what you're looking for. They each have their specific skill sets. They're really good with certain things, and for them it's just a matter of getting opportunities to grow.
Still early with Jared Patterson working there, kick return and on special teams unit, but have you seen him kind of get acclimated a bit and find some comfort in that role?
I think JP's done a nice job. He really has. He's taken advantage of his opportunities. Flashed very well last week against New England, and we're looking for the same thing from him this week.
With Jared going back as a returner, what are some of the adjustments he has to make just going back there and learning that role?
You mean JP?
Yes.
No, it's, first of all, catching the ball, and then being able to read the blocks as they're being set up. I mean, it's a timing issue. That's one thing that returners have to have is good timing with the guys up front, and then being able to read it and feel it as he's getting downhill. One thing they got to understand too is initially it's not about making a move to make somebody miss. It's usually hitting that hole and then making the next guy miss.
The vaccine stuff came up again. You had some strong comments to Albert. I'm curious, just from your end, not everybody's going to come out and be as vocal as you are. Why have you felt the need to be as vocal about that as you've been?
Well, I just answered the questions. All I did. My intent wasn't to get on a pedestal or a podium and do that. But he asked me a question, and I just felt compelled to answer it honestly. And again, that's my personal opinion and how I feel about it. I again, as I said, I just wish we could, we could make sure everybody's getting the right information.
We've talked about Antonio Gibson's development into a complete running back a little bit, pressing the holes, things of that nature. I wonder if anything stuck out to you in camp that you've either seen him improve or you'd like to see him continue growing at to get to that point.
I like to see him continue to grow. A big part of it is doing it consistently. If we run it 5 times, to have him do it 5 times consistently. Not 3 really good, 1 okay, and the 1 you got to be better at. That's where I want to see him get. I mean, he's again learning the position. He's still growing into the position. Remember he's been a wide receiver most of his football career as a young man growing up, and in college, and then now he's got the opportunity to play running back, and he's just got to continue to grow into it.
One of the biggest transitions for a receiver might be pass pro, and we haven't talked about that a lot. I wonder how he's doing in that area in your eyes.
He's doing well. Again, it's one of those things about you want to see consistency. You see him get in there and he can stone a guy at the line, and then other times he'll miss. And so it's really about him learning and developing that skill set too.
Kind of specific, but one thing I really noticed from Ryan in the Ryan Fitzpatrick in the Patriots game was his ability to be able to throw to a spot and knowing exactly where he's going to go. And I know that's important for this offense. Is that a skill that is difficult for younger quarterbacks to learn?
No, I think what it is developing that trust and that rapport with the receivers, knowing that he's going to get to where he needs to be. It is something that a veteran guy develops quickly, and he learns to gauge a guy's speed. He learns to gauge a guy's ability to reach in terms of his length, and that's what helps him throw that, make that throw. Plus, he's made it probably 25,000 times. So, it's something that becomes innate after a period of time.
Anything surprised you about him in a positive way about what he's been able to do coming in over, just these past few months?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's pretty much what we expected. You know, I know when we sit down and talk about it, we talk about the things that he does, and everybody says, yeah, he's been doing it a long time. So I think everything he's done is about what we've been expecting and hoping for.
Hey, Ron. With Troy Apke, you guys have had obviously some of the OTAs and obviously a couple of weeks of camp to see his development as a corner. Where do you think he's at, number one? And because potentially he could play corner safety and obviously a key contributor on special teams, does that buy him more time for his development at a new position in your eyes?
It creates opportunities for him, yes. I think what he's done too is, and we've seen it, we've talked about it, is you're starting to see him now get comfortable in the position. There's a lot of little nuances that he's got to continue to work on, but he does have the athleticism, you know, the quickness and speed to do those. It's got to become, again, one of those things that it becomes second nature for him to react to things that he sees when he's out there covering. But he's done a nice job, and yeah, it's given him an opportunity.
Ron, to sort of follow up on what Nikki asked about Fitzpatrick, if there's anything surprising you've learned as a person, as a leader. He's obviously a known commodity around the league, but your first real chance to be around him a lot. Have you learned anything about him or anything that surprised you from that perspective?
I appreciate his style. You know, he's not going to get out and dog cuss anybody. He's going to work up to the guy and, you know, have a nice conversation with them and point things out. He's very deliberate that way. You know, he's not demonstrative, which is, you know, not his style. And I think it suits the guys really well. And I've noticed it, and I thought he's done a good job with it.
In terms of being a leader, a locker room leader, obviously that's important for the quarterback. Are there signs that you can see or anything particular that you can kind of point to where you can tell that these guys are starting to follow him?
Yeah, when I walk into the locker room and I watch him go over to guys at their spaces or them come to him at his space and have a conversation about something, I think that's, you know, part of it. You want to see guys that when a guy is in the locker room, he's open to everybody and that people will come to him.
Take 3 more.
We saw you in that video with Jason Wright, just kind of going over the name options and that sort of thing. Just, I guess, have you been impressed with the way that it's all come together in the last year? And how involved are you still in the rebrand and getting updated and that sort of stuff?
Well, the nice thing is they asked my opinion about a lot of things, and that's cool. I really appreciate that. I am excited to see what does come down the pipe. You know, I've given my input, and it's been cool. I think it's kind of also neat the way they've reached out to our fan base, you know, and asked their opinion as well. I think that's important, that the name that is picked and that is decided upon is a name that suits and fits this community. You know, I mean, we're representing, you know, not just Virginia or Maryland or DC, we're representing all three.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Something about also Ryan Fitzpatrick. You know, he really has a connection with Terry, Adam, and Logan. How much, like, I guess what's the balance between, you know, throw those guys if you feel comfortable with them, but also trying to establish the relationship with everyone else, and how do you feel that the other stuff is coming
Well,
along?
it's the hard part for him is making sure you're getting the reps with everyone. And so we have to make sure we're rotating the groups properly so that, you know, when Cam Sims is in there, when one of the other tight ends is in there, one of the young receivers is in there, you know, like Diami, that they're all kind of working together.
I couldn't, when you did that video with the name, I couldn't understand the team name that you said you saw on the thing. Could you repeat that now? By any chance? When you were looking on the video, you saw the team, one of the name suggestions. What was that again?
Which one?
On the video.
I know.
You're not going to say. Dax Milne, how has he progressed throughout camp?
He's progressed very well. He really has. You know, you see his natural route running ability showing on certain situations, circumstances. You know, the thing is, he caught a lot of balls in college, so you know he came here prepared. He's taken coaching very well. You see him coming out of his own element and starting to create who he is, his own persona, and I think he's ahead of where you would think a lot of young guys would be at this time. I'm real pleased with what he's shown us.
And then with Cam Sims, does he give you some advantage maybe in the red zone as maybe being able to use almost in a tight end role on some of those splits? And
Yes. He's a big physical receiver that uses his body very well. He attacks the ball when it's thrown to him, and he's going to fight for it. You know, and a lot of it reflected in the way he played last year and the way he's coming to camp. He's done a nice job for us.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All righty, we're good? Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ron. Good. How's it going?
Good. Just curious, a couple weeks into camp now, where your comfort level is at after some practices and obviously getting some game action.
I feel really good with where we're at right now. Obviously, we just need to continue in the trend that we've been going with, but it's been fun to get to know the guys. It's been fun to get to dive into this offense a little bit and get some reps and figure out Scott's mind a little bit and why we're doing what we're doing. And it's definitely been a process for me and will continue to be a process, but getting out there in the preseason game, working on some of that communication with the guys up front, I think we got everything we wanted to out of last week, and hopefully that continues this week.
Because you've been able to play in a lot of different systems, you probably know when you're gaining that comfort level. What are some of the little signs maybe you even see yourself when you're watching on film to show you that you are gaining that comfort level here?
Some of it is those trust throws and knowing when guys are going to break in or out and at what point, being on the same page with a guy on a signal, or kind of being able to trust that the line is doing what I think they're doing in terms of, when we talk about protections and different things, and knowing that they'll be there to pick the guys up and trust that they're picking them up. It's all that kind of stuff as we go through it, that the more we do it in practice, the more comfortable you get in knowing that it's going to happen in a game.
Past teams, you've had some good tight ends in Scott Chandler and Delaney Walker, but you and Logan seem to have a really nice connection here. Just what do you think he could do for you personally, and how have you had developed that chemistry already?
And O.J. Howard and Cam Braid and Mike Gesicki, a couple other names. Yeah.
With listing all the names.
I mean, Mike Gesicki is so sensitive. He would have got mad if he listened to this interview and his name wasn't mentioned. Logan is he's an interesting guy. He's a great story in what he's done and actually being a quarterback in the league for a little bit. But his body type, first of all, big physical guy, can make every catch. He's got that huge catching radius. That's something as a quarterback you love. But it's the subtleness in and out of the breaks. It's his ability to think like a quarterback out there, whether it's man or zone, and understanding where he needs to be and the timing at which he needs to be there. All that stuff has been great. And then when you get to the red zone, it's even heightened even more. And so far it's been good working with him. We've always have conversations during and after practice about football. He loves football. And also, he's got 5 kids. I've got a few more than he does, but some of the parenting stuff as well.
And Mike Gesicki, if you're listening to this, my name is Matt Paris.
No, all right. Thanks, Pete. You mentioned a few times about how Houston was kind of a turning point in your career and stuff. What was it about that system? I think you mentioned the other day to The Athletic that it was the QB control. Just what did Bill O'Brien show you that gave that kind of changed your career?
Yeah, I mean, it was looking at the game in a different way than I had ever looked at it. It was understanding how to manipulate the defenses to make the offense work. It was a different way to attack defenses, and it was a complete 180 with what I had done in the past, and just having that new perspective on the way that he did it and the way that he taught it really allowed me to kind of bring that along in my career and help me year after year.
How hard is it to learn that 180 then? Because you had been in the league at that point for almost 10 years at that point.
Yeah, so. I mean, even here, going into year 17 and having an offense that I'm not 100% familiar or comfortable with, and having to trust sometimes some of the things that they're saying, You know, as an older guy, a lot of times it's, well, that's not the way I've done it. I don't think that's going to work. And it did take OTAs and some training camp reps to kind of see some things that I hadn't looked at it that way before, some of these throws and progressions and the way that we do it here. And it goes both ways. There's some stuff I'm really comfortable with that I've been successful with that will, you know, sprinkle into the offense as well. But it's hard, and the older you get, the harder it is to take a step back and say, no, I'm right, you're wrong, and you get into that game a little bit. So you take the ego out of it, and it takes reps and time to understand it, and that's been good for me with the off season.
Hey, Ryan, just with all your experience, like you mentioned, how much do you want to be playing in the next couple preseason games? It's a different schedule than it's been in the past.
I mean, I always like playing a little bit in the preseason. You know, I don't need to go out there and play the whole game, but it's nice to put the uniform on, to go through the warm-up, and to get a couple series where you can communicate, come off the sideline, look at the pictures. You know, the communication with Scott, the communication with Coach Zampese, that kind of stuff, and even talking to guys on the sideline. It's nice when I'm in a setting now where I haven't done it with those guys before, just to get a couple practice runs in.
Ryan, you talked to our colleague Robert Mays a little bit about like your pathway to Washington, the 17 seasons, and you said this is the best team that you've been on. I believe this is before you had a practice rope with the team. Now having practiced and having had a game, just speaking more to why is this the best team? Like now that you've had some time with the guys on the field, why is this the best group you've had so far in your 17 seasons?
Well, I think it's a group we're ascending. I mean, everybody's heading in the right direction. I think there's some momentum coming off of last year, and then just, you know, speaking about the offense, the offense is going to be dynamic. There's a lot of different guys where it's not just going to be focused on one guy trying to force feed him the ball. There's a lot of different guys that can make plays. So I think the combination of all that, and obviously the defense and everything that's talked about with them, for us, you know, to have the privilege to go against them every day and try to get better, that's been really helpful too. So it's a combination of all that, I think, that you know, leads me to think that I'm in a really good situation.
And just very quickly, in terms of testing long ball, what is your general philosophy like, trying to understand like how guys approach it when you're going deep to them in practices and also in the games themselves? How important for you is it just to test guys? Maybe, I don't know, maybe you're not necessarily trying to connect with them, but you're just trying to see like how they go about getting the ball. Can you kind of walk me through that process with the deep ball?
Yeah, I mean, every receiver is different, you know, and yeah, it depends, and some of it's the speed, some of it is, you know, when they're getting open, if it's going to be an early go throw versus one maybe that's going to be down the field a little bit more. But I've got my 3 or 4 categories that kind of every receiver fits in one of those, and you just, for me, I'm able to quickly kind of assess and throw them in a box, and that helps me get on the same page quicker, I guess. I can't tell you the 4 boxes. No. Yeah, maybe in my book in 20 years I'll.
Ryan, you've talked before about, because you've been around, you kind of know what works for you, and you can look at an offense and kind of a feel for what makes sense for everything, all the personnel. It's good to have some autonomy as the quarterback out there. How is that process kind of going with Scott Turner, with the coaching staff, to get a feel for what you kind of know what they want to do, and them letting you kind of know what you think makes sense?
It's been good, and it takes a lot of conversations. I mean, again, sometimes it's egos to the side and what's best for the team, and just always making sure that we're all pulling in the same direction. But yeah, those are things that they take work, because you've got a lot of guys that are, you know, very prideful, and we're all in the spot that we're at because we've been successful in what we do. So it's been great. The conversations and communication, whether it's on the practice field or up in the meeting rooms, has been really good. And I think that's probably the most important part of it, is open lines of communication, constantly talking about it, likes, dislikes, all that, and just putting everything out in the open. And that's usually the best way to communicate.
In terms of getting a feel for what you have on offense, obviously Curtis Samuel hasn't practiced yet. He'll get out there when he gets out there, but he's going to be such an integral piece. How do you you already start to try to figure out how he fits in, or if not, how much of a rush job is that going to be to get ready for the season?
Well, he's in box number 1, so you can. Yeah. Yeah, that's one I threw to him a little bit, but I think with me and just the experience of throwing to so many different guys, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I would have loved to have all the work with him and everything, but as he gets going here, it's going to be nice to throw to him, but I think I'll quickly be able to kind of make that assessment and feel comfortable with him.
Hey, Ryan. Do you already feel the chemistry that you kind of need with Terry and Logan, like to make some of those throws that you made last Thursday night? I don't want to call them trust throws, but the one leading Terry into the middle, and then obviously Logan back shoulder. Is that just from a chemistry and a rhythm already, or is that just the way it's designed and called up and them making adjustments, or how does that?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is, a lot of it is the work that we put in on the practice field. A lot of it is, it's nice when you get into these games and you see the carryover. We hit those on air, and then we hit them versus the defense in these competitive periods, and then all of a sudden you're going against somebody else, and the same good things are happening. So that carryover is nice, but that's part of it's due to experience from them and from me, but a lot of it is due to the work we've put out here, and those were probably the two best throws that highlight the fact that we're feeling a little bit more comfortable on offense with each other.
I want to ask about that throw to Terry specifically. What goes into something like that where you're releasing the ball and Terry's way over here and you're throwing to a spot? I mean, just generally, what are some of the things you're looking at and you need to know for that to work?
Well, some of that is hard to like put into words, I guess, because it's so second nature at this point. Like making some of those throws, and if you ask me how far I lead somebody when they're running this way or running this way full speed, I don't even know. You have done it for so long that like it's just second nature. But there is, certain coverages are going to dictate where we're going with the ball, and on that play in particular, he's also got to trust that I'm throwing him in there and I'm not throwing him into traffic. He's going to be able to run through that ball and hopefully get out the back end. So again, time and reps, but a lot of it just, we practice out here so much and throw so many of those balls that it just becomes second nature with me and with him, and putting it in the right spot and knowing where he's going to be.
Just quickly, going back to your communication with Scott Jenner, do you have the freedom to include concepts that you've had success with in the past and work that into the offense here?
Yeah, I usually don't get to name them, though. He has names for everything, so that part of it, that's in football and all these offenses, there's so many things that are the same. They're just termed differently, or conceptually people will read them differently, or they'll go through a different progression. But there's some stuff and there's some concepts that maybe we'll call more this year that we didn't call last year, that he didn't call last year as much because of me. But he still keeps the naming rights to all those things.
Managing ego a couple times, and I wonder, like, at what point in your career did you start to think more intentionally about that as a part of, I guess, your job, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's a hard thing because part of it for me, I guess, is moving from team to team. You always want to go in there and you want to say, this is my team and this is what I want to do. And for me, in the situations that I go into, that's normally not the case. The case is prove it to me, show it to me, and then maybe the leash gets a little bit longer. But it's definitely something that's important to know that, like, again, we're all working in the same direction, to know that, like, we've got very smart people all around the building, all trying to go for one common goal. I intentionally have to sometimes check it at the door, make sure that I'm putting my full focus and effort into doing it the way they want to do it, to see if that works for me or not.
Is that something you had to learn, or do you think that comes natural for you? Or?
No, it's something I had to learn for sure, and something I try to teach my kids all the time, but I don't know, maybe they get it from their dad, I don't know.
Hey, Ryan. It was said to me back in the spring when you signed here that there's probably very little that you have seen. Everything that you've seen over the years, there's nothing that's going to surprise you. That offensively, you've done it all, you've seen it all. So, is there anything different here now? Is there anything that's new to you, or is it really all?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple reads and throws, the way they do things here, that made me scratch my head at first, that I totally get and I'm on board with now. So I guess in that context, without getting too much into like the X's and O's, there's definitely some of these things, they look at football differently than I ever have. And it's, when I look at old film of Phillip Rivers doing it and guys that have done it over and over and been successful with it, it's easier to say, okay, let me try this out and go from there. But yeah, I think the biggest thing with my experience and the stuff that have seen, especially when a season pops up and there's adversity and there's bad things that are going to happen and good things that are going to happen, it's managing expectations, all of that stuff. I think my experience is going to help this team out a lot with that.
Sometimes new quarterbacks go places and there's that learning curve. There's that sort of, learning a language and all that stuff. Is that stuff all you've done so you don't have that catch up, or do you have that catch up too?
No, I have that catch up. I just don't have. I think my career is a little bit different in that I don't really have the luxury of not do it and perform at a high level way. There's not a whole lot of patience. I've got to go out there if I have an opportunity and perform. So in that way, there's a little bit added, I feel like, for me to get it right quicker. But I have been in a lot of systems to where sometimes I am able to piece it together a little bit quicker.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
All right, thank you.
What's that? Oh, shit.
How's it going?
Just to start off, how's it feel being back out at practice, and kind of what was bothering you with your ankle before?
What was bothering me? Is that what you said? Being back out here is awesome. Feels great. I just got rolled up on in Richmond. Just a little sprain, but everything's good now. Feels great. Feels better than it did before. So feels great to be back out here.
What are you looking for to see, to feel like, okay, I'm 100% again? What tells you that?
Just getting hit, honestly. Just getting hit hard. I just want to get hit again. I feel like that's what preseason is about for quarterbacks in general is you just want to be able to go through the motions. You want to be able to execute and then take a couple hits and feel good about it. Mm-hmm.
Hopeful that you will be good to go for this game on Friday?
Yeah, I'm going to play Friday. I'll be good.
Okay. And what has this camp been like for you? I know you just sitting out those couple of weeks is just mentally overcoming what you did with the injury, the missing a little bit of time and then coming back. What has that been like for you?
It was tough. I mean, I was excited to come back for camp. I was telling somebody this. I was the most excited I was to get back to camp, just get back to playing football again. So it's kind of a bummer that first week, getting a little injury and kind of a little setback, but it was nice to be able to just sit back and kind of take a bird's eye view of everything and see how everything was working, and it's good to be back.
Kyle, with the setback and obviously having to miss the practice, and then you get back out here and you're trying to find your timing, how important will the game be after obviously getting a couple of practices to again assist in not only getting your timing but facing some live bullets for real?
Yeah, I mean, I think practice is more important for that, for all the timing stuff, but I think it's like you said, the live bullets is really what it is. Facing another defense, game planning another defense, just kind of going through the motions of that and feeling that part of it out, it's going to be important.
Hey, Kyle, with regards to the receivers, even from when you were here, when you were starting a year ago, the room has changed a lot. What stands out to you about the difference with this group now versus what you had last year?
I mean, we got a lot of speed now. We got a lot of speed. I think, obviously, I was with Curtis in Carolina, so I have a lot of experience with Curtis. He's going to be great. You guys haven't seen him much out here, but he's going to be incredible. Adam, bringing him in, he's been great. He's been great in short area stuff, but he's also fast down the field, too. People don't give him credit for that. And then, I know Fitz talks about him a lot, but Diami's been awesome down the field stuff, and he's been picking everything up really quickly. And obviously Terry, and there's a ton of other guys in the room. I think our receiver room's really deep this year. I think everyone can see that. But, it's been a bright spot for us, for sure.
You've obviously been around Scott Turner for a long minute here. Are you seeing him be able to go to maybe different parts of the playbook that were not possible last year because you guys have some more weapons and things like that?
Yeah, I think, Scott does a good job of just accentuating what we're good at and what players we got and just trying to get the ball to them in the best way possible. And so I think we've seen a lot of different stuff this year. I think he did a deep dive in the offseason of what we needed to get better at and who we drafted and who we traded for and what we can do. And so it's a lot different than last year, for sure.
Hey, Kyle, you said this was the most exciting you were to get back to camp. Was that just because of the injury or something else about how you're feeling?
No, I think it was more just because of the injury. I think that was the first time in my career I've had a really serious injury and missed real time. And it was weird coming up here for 2 hours a day and doing treatment and going home and watching practice on my iPad and watching the games from my couch. I've been playing football since I was 7, so fall, August to December is football, and last year it wasn't for the first time. So I think I was just excited to get back in the flow of things and get back into routine.
And this is kind of a two-part on Ryan Fitzpatrick. What kind of things have you learned from a guy who's been around as much as he has? And he was saying, too, that this offense, sometimes he's like, when he first learned it, he's like, some of it didn't make sense to him until it did. But what have you learned, and then what are some of the things you've seen in him as he's learned that?
I think Ryan, just like Alex was last year and any vet to be around, I think they just bring good perspective, different perspective, especially him because he's been in so many different offenses, been around so many different people. He knows what he likes. He knows what we can do better for our personnel. And then for him, I think it just took a little time to really get used to it. I don't think he's been in this system ever. It's been a long time. But I think with him, over the summer, he was really trying to feel out like what he could do in this offense. He was really trying to push it, and now I think you see it in these last couple weeks, especially when I was out watching him. He's crisp. Like, he's doing really well. He's really getting in his groove, and I think he's finding where space can go on each play.
You mentioned Curtis. We haven't really seen him out here as much just because he's dealing with the groin, but besides his speed, what else will he be able to add once he's fully back, ready to go?
I mean, just looking over his film, if you've watched his film in the past, I think just with the ball in his hands, it's kind of like Terry with the ball in his hands. Once you get the ball to him, it's 50, 60, 70% chance you're not getting him down right away. I think Curtis is great. We'll do a lot of different stuff with him, and I think he's just creates separation on his routes better than a lot of people I've been with. I think people are scared of his speed deep, and he's really good in and out of his cuts. And so I think we're excited to get him back out here, happy he's healthy and ready for the season.
Hi, Kyle.
Hi.
You had a chance to practice against the first team defense. Just what are some things that you've noticed that are different with that group? Obviously, William Jackson is new there, Bobby McCain, but you've had a chance to run up against them recently. What is your takeaway about how you performed against the first team defense and also just their performance as well, too?
I think the guys we brought in are good players in the secondary. I think especially William and Bobby, they're veterans like Fitz. They're savvy, they're doing different things than the younger year guys. And then I think another guy like Cole, who stepped up last year and who's really been getting more and more comfortable in the system. It's been cool to see him grow, and he's been playing really well during camp. So I think the defense as a whole, you don't see a lot of mental mistakes from them, which is big. I think we had a couple mental mistakes last year, and this year it's been really crisp during camp for them. So it's been impressive.
For you personally, you're the one playing against them. What have you learned about yourself going up against this group? What are some things that you feel like you've done well playing against the first team defense, and what are some things that you say you need to work on some more, though, too?
I think today and yesterday was like the first day we did scouts against them. So I think scouts is interesting because you run in different offenses and you're trying to make it to your offense. But I think it's always good no matter whose defense you're going against. Where I was in Carolina or here, the scouts is just pocket movement, pocket presence, and then you want to beat the defense regardless. So just doing that. We don't want to be nice to them. But yeah, it's like I said, they've just been really crisp. They've been looking really good.
Hey, Kyle. Looking at Antonio Gibson in his second season now, what kind of jump have you seen from him, and what differences are you seeing from him now this year as opposed to last year? And how much easier do you think he could make the life of a quarterback back there and transform this offense in addition to the receivers?
Yeah, you saw Christian McCaffrey in this offense a couple years ago. Obviously, one of the best players in the league, but I think that's where we're trying to push Antonio to go, and he's improved a ton. I think. Just think about it last year. He was a receiver coming in as a running back, right? And this year, he's had a year under his belt where he played very well, like 10-plus touchdowns, and he's gaining a lot more confidence. He's playing a lot faster. He's understanding it. He's making decisions quicker. And I think the more reps he gets, just like last year, the more reps he gets, the better he gets. So, I mean, he's just been continuously getting better.
Comparing him to McCaffrey, you think he has the potential to kind of have maybe not exactly the same production, but somewhat similar and be kind of that role in this offense?
I mean, I think we try and use him that way, you know. We try and get him the ball in the pass game. We try and run the ball with him a ton, and we'll motion him out. We'll use him in different spaces. Him and JD, too, both of them. I'm not trying to compare him to him, but it's the way we're trying to go with it. So